Hello and welcome. I hope you're all doing well. I've been insanely busy since we last spoke, as evidenced by the fact that this video is coming out a day later than usual, but we should be back on track now with hopefully no love lost. However, during this last week, I was having a conversation with a friend of mine about how I miss playing the Musou games, and jokingly asked what he would think if I decided to collect every Koei Tecmo Musou game ever made. He laughed me off, but I decided to look up how many games there were because, after all, how bad could it be? Short answer is really bad. There's at least 6 unique series, with the lead series Dynasty Warriors having the most titles at 9, plus expansions. So, I thought instead, why not focus my efforts and look into which ones I would be directly interested in, and see what the damage would be. So that's what we're going to do today. We're going to look back at the history of Dynasty Warriors. Let's begin. Developed by Omega Force and published by Koei before they became Koei Tecmo, Dynasty Warriors, known in Japan as Sengoku Musou, was released in 1997 for the PlayStation 1. Believe it or not, it was actually a fighting game with weapons much like Soul Calibur with the aesthetics of Virtua Fighter. It was liked upon release, and critics were particularly impressed by how different it was from Koei's offerings at the time. I've never played this original game, but it strikes me as the difference between Street Fighter and Street Fighter 2, in that while the original may have been popular and laid the groundwork for what was to come, the sequel is where the real cheddar was made. Speaking of which, Dynasty Warriors 2, known in Japan as Shin Sengoku Musou, was the first of the Musou games that would come to define not only Omega Force, the developer, but Koei as well. It was released on August 3rd, 2000 for the PlayStation 2. Because Japan treats this as a separate series from the Sengoku Musou game that came before it, and the rest of the world treated it as a sequel, the international versions of the game have always been one number ahead of the series in Japan, i.e. Dynasty Warriors 2 here is 1 there, 3 is 2, and so on. Dynasty Warriors 2 did away with the fighting game gameplay altogether and instead created a massive battlefield hack-and-slash game that some would call a button masher, while others would call a hero battlefield simulator. But regardless of which way you think about it, the original game was a simple game that lets you hit square for basic attacks, triangle for more powerful attacks and combo-ending attacks, circle to unleash your Musou attack when your meter was full, and cross to jump. It featured a story mode centered around the story of Romance of the Three Kingdoms, where you can play as each of the 28 characters in the game who sought to lead their state in China during the Three Kingdoms era of Chinese history to unify the country under their banner of Shu, Wu, or Wei. While Dynasty Warriors 2 did not feature all of the important characters of the story nor the important battles, these failings would be rectified in the sequel. Speaking of which, Dynasty Warriors 3 was released in 2001 for the Xbox and PlayStation 2. The second installment added more characters, weapons, as well as a 2-player mode. This was also the first game in the series to have an Extreme Legends expansion. This expansion allowed you to play the story mode of characters like Dong Zhuo and Lu Bu, who were previously obstacles to overcome for the other characters. While this expansion can be played as a standalone experience, if you import your save data from the base game, you can play all of those scenarios and characters with the new enhancements. Interestingly, this was released only 1 month before the true sequel would be released. In February of 2003, Omega released Dynasty Warriors 4 into the world on PS2 and later that year onto Xbox. The game included new characters as well as an edit mode. This is the game that, for me, is most notable as it was the first Dynasty Warriors game to feature the Empires expansion on top of the Extreme Legends expansion. That's right, 2 expansions for 1 game when they were releasing at almost a yearly cadence. Empires adds an Empire mode which gives you an ultimate goal of conquering all of China to create your own empire. It has many more strategy elements, however the base gameplay of individual battles is largely unchanged from the base game. The Extreme Legends expansion is also notable for adding duels to the game, which, for me, stepping into the ring with Lu Bu for the first time is something that I will never forget. Duels were a way to let you stand off in a ring away from all other combatants with the opposing officer, and on harder difficulties could pose quite the challenge. It's also worth noting that there was a PC port called Dynasty Warriors Hyper, which boasts improved graphics, dialogue, AI, and multiple language options. Following that, Koei and Omega Force released the last game in the series that I played. Dynasty Warriors 5 was released in February of 2005 for the PlayStation 2, later that year for the Xbox, and in March of the following year for the Xbox 360. This game is notable for adding features from past games and expansions, but did not bring back the duel system from 4 Extreme Legends, which for me was a major disappointment. After this, they would go on to release Dynasty Warriors 6 in 2007 and Dynasty Warriors 7 in 2011 for the PlayStation 3 and Xbox 360, and Dynasty Warriors 8 in 2013 for the PS3 and 360, as well as PS4 and PC the following year. Finally, the most recent title in the series is Dynasty Warriors 9 for the PS4, Xbox One, and PC, which was released in 2018 and made a major shakeup to the series. You see, Dynasty Warriors 9 decided to go open world, and instead of dropping you into a relatively small map with bases and enemies to destroy, you were given a vast and ultimately fairly empty world to explore for this same purpose. While I haven't played this game myself, I have heard that it feels empty and somewhat soulless due to it seeming to have similar content to past games, but a bunch of empty world between that content, so you don't have to load up a new level each time. Fans seem to have been in a bit of a slump recently on the main series, but as this is the 20th anniversary, counting from Dynasty Warriors 2, since that was the first game in this series in Japan. I know this gets confusing, apologize about that. They have promised not one, but multiple games will be released this year to celebrate. Whether those plans will be affected by current world events remains to be seen, however, I personally cannot wait to see them, as this will be my grand return to the series, and I can't wait to share my thoughts with you guys when I do. Well, that's it for me this week. If you guys like this video, drop me a like and subscribe for more, and if you played Dynasty Warriors before, let me know your history with the series in the comment section below, and until next time, have fun out there, guys.